In continuation with the last class, registrations. Now we are discussing about casual taxable person and non-resident taxable persons. That is section 25-27 related. Who is a casual taxable person? Is a person, casual taxable person is one who is having a registered business in some states in India. So he is having some states, he is having registered in India, but wants to effect supplies from one state and other state is which he is not having any fixed place of business. So he is having registration in some states and he does not have any fixed place of business in another states, another stores. So he wants to do the business in another states also. So such person need to register in state for which where he is seeking to apply as a casual taxable person, where he does not have any place of business at that place. He want to carry on a business on a occasionally basis. That person is required to get the registration where no place of fixed place of business. This is known as casual taxable person. For example, Mr. Krishnadev and Co. engaged in supplying taxable goods is registered in Rajasthan. He is a registered person in Rajasthan. It wishes to participate in 5 days business exhibition being held in Delhi. So he is registered in Rajasthan. He want to participate in Delhi. In Delhi, he does not have any fixed place of business. In this case, Krishnadev and Co. has obtained registration as a casual taxable person. So if you want to perform business at Delhi, you want to get registration as a casual taxable person. This is casual taxable person. Next, another person, non-resident taxable person. Non-resident taxable person is a person who is a non-resident, and is taxable person is one who is a foreigner and he was occasionally came to in India, occasionally want to effect taxable supplies from any state in India, and for that he need to register GST registration. So one person outside India, he wants to carry out some business for some days, for carry on some business. He does not have any place of business in India. So he want to now occasionally want to carry on a business in any state. Then he is required to get the registration. And of course, are following points for a merit consideration. That is, in case CTP does not have fixed place of business in the state or unit territory where he undertakes the supply through he might be registered to his fixed place of business in some other states. But while NRTP does not have fixed place of business residence in India at all, so CTP is have residence business in India and it does not have place of business at where you want to do the business, but NRTP does not have resident at all. Next, NCTP has to undertake transactions in course or furtherance of business where has business test is absent in the definition of NRTP. Next, special categories, special registrations is required to here GST law prescribes special procedure for registrations for two persons, that is casual taxable person and non-resident taxable person. They must register for also extension operation period of such casual or taxable persons. So they have to apply for registration at least 5 days in advance for before making any supply. In normal cases, when a person gets the liable for registration, they will provide 30 days time for registration for these two persons, who is a casual taxable person and non-resident taxable person. They must get at least 5 days in advance before making supplies. Now here, while filing the registration is granted to them or period of operation is extended only after they make the deposit advance amount deposit of the estimated tax liability, where we can take PAN details for casual taxable person and passport details for NRTP persons. Next, here that certificate is valid only for the period of 90 days from the date of 90 days from the date of effective registration. If you want to extend further, can be extended not exceeding 90 days from the date of before validity of registration. For example, as on date I have applied, so for today's date I think so 5 or 6 I think the date will be 6th December, and I want to start the one exhibition he is going at Chennai. One exhibition is going at Chennai. So I want to participate in that Chennai. So before, at least 5 days before, I want to register as a casual taxable person, or I want to register as a non-taxable resident person. For both person, at least 5 days is required, and I must to pay advance amount of tax. How much I am going to taking for their outward tax liability, how much I have ITC for that supplies. After that, net payment is there. No, on that net payment, I have to pay the tax liability before getting the registration. Once the deposit is paid, then only you will get the registration. From that day to effective date to 90 days is validated. 90 days is valid for that such a registration, and if you want to further extend, 90 days will be allowed, whichever is earlier. Here advance tax will be on net amount. Next, where extension of time he sought, CTP NRTP will be deposit on advance additional amount of tax equivalent to the estimated tax liability of such person for a period for which extension is sought. Next, registration of participation of long run exhibition. In case long run exhibition for a period of more than 180 days, then taxable person cannot be treated as CTP, and the such person would be required to obtain registration as a normal taxable person. If there you want to continue as a person more than 90 days, then you are required to get normal registration and provide the details. Next, then at that point in time, if you are registering as a normal taxable person, then it is not required to pay the advance tax amount. Next, demerged registration, section 26. Section 26, demerged registration. What is this demerged registration provisions? Sometimes grant registration, that is UN or CGST GST Act, demerged registration granted or provided application for registration has not been rejected. You are applied for registration. The person, GST officer, must accept or reject. If he accepted, you will get the registration. If he has not accepted, you must reject the application. If he has not rejected within time specified, then that registration will be treated as deemed registration. That is the provision that. Next, another one point will be rejection of application for registration or UN based deemed to be rejected application for registration under CGST Act. Next, special provision for granting of registration in case of person required to TDS under section 52, which is section 51 or 52, that is TDS persons. Here the two persons, these different person, common person, they would be granted registration within 3 working days from the date of submission of application after due verification. So that registration they will get within 3 working days. And next, special provisions granting registration in case of persons supplying online information and data access for retrievable OIDR services from place outside India to non-taxable online recipient, non-taxable online registration. Okay, here this persons will be get registration. They would be granted registration subject to such conditions and restrictions as may be specified by the officer, as may be notified by the central government or recommendation of the council. Next, in this chapter, while elaborating the registration provisions, chapter 3 registration of CGST, only registration forms GST REG 1 and form REG 06 has been discussed. Next, section number 28. What is there in section 28? Amendment of registration. If you have any registration amendments, registration, then you can get registration amendments. For if you are amending the core field or non-core field, will be bifurcation. Like if you are amending for core field information, that is important information, then proper officer approval is required. If non-core information, then it is not required for proper officer. That is core field information means person of permission of proper officer is required if change is required to core field information. If it is a core field information, then proper officer approval is required, and the such change does not warrant cancellation of registration under GST under section 29. Here, what is the core field information? Core field information, that is legal name of business or address, principal place of business or additional place of business. Changes of these two particulars shall be applicable for all registrations of registered person obtained under provisions of this act and same PAN. Next, additions, deletions or retirement of partners or directors, karta, managing committee or board of trustee or chief executive officer or equivalent responsible persons for day-to-day affairs of the business. These three informations, that is legal name, address and authorized signature. Legal name, address and authorized signatory persons. For these persons, there is compulsory for proper officer prior approval is required. Next, some information like mobile number, email address of authorized signatory can be amended only after online verification through GST portal. Here, if you are a registered person, you are applying for core areas. Core areas means that is legal name of business, address of principal place of business or additional place of business, or any changes, that is addition, deletion, retirement of authorized persons details. In that case, submission of application within 15 days, changes of 15 days, application within 15 days of changes. GST common, if you applied and submitted, the application will be within 15 days of changes. GST common portal, what the GST common portal do? It will send to proper officer. If proper officer of the opinion that amendment is unwarranted or documented, furnished or incomplete information, if you are provided incomplete information, then he will issue show cause notice. If he is satisfied with your information, then within that 15 days permission will be granted for changing. If you are within that 15 days of receipt of application, if you are not satisfied, you will issue the show cause notice for amending the information or not rejecting. Then if you are a non-core person, areas, amendment carried out GST portal, common portal, registration certificate will be amended as and when the details was provided. Next, whenever you get the show cause notice related to if you are not provided proper information, and if the registered person replies to the notice within 7 days of working, within 7 working days, so after 15 days is over, from that day, if you receive one show cause notice, from receipt of that show cause notice, you must reply within 7 days. If your reply is satisfied by the proper officer, then he will provide the details for amendment details. If he is not satisfied, the application of amendment shall be rejected. He will receive the within 7 working days of receipt of reply will be conclusions. Next, if the proper officer fails to take any actions, here for first 15 days of working days, if the proper officer is not provided any show cause notice or not amended the details, then it will be treated as deemed approval. Or in this case, after the we are provide the information within 7 days, if is satisfactory or not satisfactory. If satisfactory, amendment is provided. If not satisfactory, you must apply for rejection. You must reject the application. If he is not rejected, then it will be treated as deemed approval. That is that if the proper officer fails to take any action within 15 working days from the date of submission of the application, this is first case, and within 7 working days from the date of receipt of reply to the show cause notice, this is second case, the certificate of registration shall stand amended to the extent applied for, and the amended certificate shall be made available to the registered person on the common portal. Next, example number 22. Varun Enterprise, a sole proprietor firm, is engaged in supply of electrical goods in Delhi. The firm is registered under GST. Varun is the proprietor of the firm. He wishes to expand his business and his friend Arun approaches him to provide additional capital for his business if he is made a partner in Varun's business. Next, Varun agrees and changes the constitution of his business and form of partnership form. Varun, and Comco since the change in the constitution of business. Here, constitution was changing from sole proprietor to partnership form, sole proprietor to farm, but it is not related to amendment. It is not related to amendment because here the PAN information is changing. So the PAN information is changing. The partnership firm has applied for fresh registration. It is not allowed as amendment. It must get the fresh registration. The reason for the same is GST is a PAN based. Any change in PAN would warrant for new registration. This is section 28. Next, section 29 and 30. This is cancellation or suspension of registration and revocation of cancellation. If you are not filed your returns properly, then your registration will be cancelled, or you may get suspension also. That is, cancellation or registration will be. That is, there are two cases where one is voluntary cancellation by the registered person. If you do not have carrying the business, then you can close your business. There, what is your liability? Where the registered person no more require the registration. If it does not require registration, for example, in case of death of registered person, a legal heir can apply for cancellation. Next, in case suo motu by department, where the proper officer consider the registration of person liable for cancellation in view of certain defaults. There may be certain defaults. If such defaults is affected that person, proper officer issue the show cause notice for cancellation. For cancellation, he will issue the show cause notice. For suspension, he will not give any show cause notice. For example, when registrant is not doing business from the registered place of business, or he issues tax invoice without making supply of goods or services, whatever the example was provided. Next, where circumstances where registration is liable to be cancelled. When we will get the registration will be cancelled. There may be cancellation by the registered person on its own or by department, where business is discontinued or transferred fully for any reason, including death of proprietor, or amalgamated with other legal entity, demerged or otherwise disposed of, or change in the constitution of business. It has taxable person who is no longer liable to be registered under section 22 or section 24, or who intended to opt out for voluntary registration. These persons will get terminated from their business and it will be transferred to other persons. Next, circumstances when the proper officer can cancel the registration on his own. For own, there may be discontinuation or transfer or amalgamation or demerger. For proper officer, in case of proper officer, he will see the four regions, mainly return cases. That is, registered person. Here we will see the four cases. First is a registered person has not filed the returns for continuous 6 months. If you are not filed the continuous 6 months, it is in normal registered person. If the compulsion registered person, he will see the 3 consecutive returns. Next, voluntary registered person has not commenced the business within 6 months from the date of registration. So you are taking the registration. You have not commenced any business. Then it will be treated as you will cancel the registration. Next, registration was obtained by means of fraud, willful misstatement or suppression of fact. It will be treated as cancellation of registration by the proper officer. Next, a registered person has contravened the prescribed provisions. So there are some provisions you must follow. You have not followed that provisions, then you will get liable for a registration cancellation. Or if you are obtained willfully fraud, then you will get cancel registration. Next, here prescribed for contravention which makes a registered person liable to cancellation of registration. That is rule 21. The registered person does not conduct any business from declared place, or that is he is not continuing business, or he is issuing invoices or bills without supplying or violate the provisions of section 171 provisions is what is there in 171 contains provisions of anti-profiteering measures. So he is anti-profiteering measuring violating this provisions. So not conducting business or not issuing the bills or issuing the bills and a violation, that is violation of the act or violation of the provisions of section 171 or violation of provisions of rule 10A. Next, avails ITC in violation of provisions of section 16. Avails ITC in violation of provisions. You do not have invoices, but you are taking the ITCs. Next, furnishing the details of outward supplies from GSTR1 under section 37 of one or more period which in excess of outward supplies declared by him in is valid return under section 39. So you are not providing proper returns within time limit that GSTR wants, that GSTR wants one or more tax period in which excess of outward supplies declared. Next, violate provisions of rule 86B. What is this rule 86B? That is in case if your turnover in year 50 lakhs or more, then you require to pay your outward tax liability as 99% in ITC, 1% must be paid through cash only. So 100% utilization of ITC is not available when 86B is applicable. Next, if you are 3 consecutive taxpayers in case of persons who have opted for composition levy. So in case if you are a composition person, you have not furnished the returns for 3 consecutive years, 3 consecutive periods. Here what is there in rule 21? When you are contravention liable for registration. What is the contravention? Not conducted business or not issued invoices properly, or violating the sections, violating the provisions, or availing the ITC which you are not have any invoices, or furnishing details relating to outward supply. GSTR1 is not filing for 6 months, for the period of last for one or more tax period, or which is excessive outward supply declared in valid return. So GSTR1 data is greater than GSTR3B. GSTR1 information is greater than GSTR3B. Next, violate the provisions of rule 86B, that is 99% cases. Next, 3 consecutive taxpayers in case of persons who have opted for composition levy. This is related to registration, cancellation by registration. Next, suspension of registration. Suspension of registration means once a registered person has applied for cancellation of registration, or the proper officer seeks to cancellation his registration, the proper officer may suspend his registration during pendency of proceedings relating to cancellation of registration. If any person applied for cancellation or suo motu issued for so-called notice, for that period of some proceedings, they may suspend your registration. For this suspension, show cause notice is not required. Routine compliances including filing of returns of pendency of proceedings relating to cancellation of registration. The period and manner suspension of registration is as follow. What is there in follow for suspension? There is date of submission of application, or date from which cancellation is sought. It will be treated as suspension. Where a registered person has applied for cancellation of registration, the registration shall be deemed to be suspended from when he submits the application, or date from which cancellation is sought. It is treated as suspended your GST registration. Whichever is later will be taking. Next, pending the completion of proceedings for cancellation of registration. Next, where cancellation of registration has been initiated by the department on its own motion, sometimes on his own motion, department will be suspend from registration at that point of time, where where it comprises the return furnished by the registered person under section 39 with details of outward supplies furnished in GSTR 1 or details of inward supplies derived based on details of GSTR supplies furnished in GSTR 1. GSTR 1 or such analysis means here what they will telling means GSTR 1 data or what the sales outward tax liability you are declaring in GSTR 1 is greater than that GSTR 3B, that is leading to cancellation of registration of the said provisions. See, his registration will be suspended. Next, such person shall be intimated in prescribed form by sending a communication to his email address provided at the time of registration or has amended from time to time. Whatever mail ID you are provided, that mail ID you will get the intimation for suspension or cancellation of registration. In this intimation for suspension and notice for cancellation of registration, the said differences and anomalies are highlighted and the said person is asked to explanation within a period of 30 days. If you are filed a return GSTR 3B, GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B, if there is a difference, they may ask for reasons for difference. You must answer within 30 days. As and why his registration shall not be cancelled. They will ask for due to this difference we are going to cancel your registration, so you provide the reason for not cancelling the registration. In case where the cancellation is initiated by the department on its own and registration of a person has been suspended, such person shall not be granted any refund under section 54. So if even though there is any ITC, he will not get any refund. If he went for voluntary cancellation, then he will get the refund. A registered person who registered has been suspended has above, that is shall not make any taxable supply during the period of suspension. He is not provide any supplies and shall not require to furnish any returns under section 39. That the expression shall not make any taxable supplies shall mean that registered person shall not issue a tax invoice, not charge tax from any persons, not charge any tax from other persons. The period of suspension. The suspension of registration shall be deemed to be revoked upon completion of cancellation proceedings by the proper officer. Such revocation shall be effective from the date on which the suspension has been come into effect. Then, if you are applied for revocation of cancellation of registration, the revocation cancellation application is satisfied the proper officer, then the suspension will be removed. Where any order has been effecting revocation of suspension of registration has been passed, the provisions of section 40 will be applicable. Section 30 will be applicable for revised tax invoices and section 40 for first returns. Next, procedure for cancellation of registration, rule 20 and rule 22. Voluntary cancellation by registered person. If person want to cancel his registration, then he can cancel his registration by sending within 30 days of occurrence of event warranting for cancellation. He is required to furnish the application of the details of like input held in stock or inputs held in semi-finished goods or held in stock of capital goods held in stock on the date from which cancellation of registration is sought, the liability thereon, details of payment if any made against such liability has may furnish relevant documents. Order, where a person who has submitted an application for cancellation of his registration is no longer liable to be registered. Proper officer shall issue the order for cancellation of registration within 30 days from the date of submission of cancellation. So within 30 days he will order for cancellation. Next, suo motu cancellation by department. If you are applied within 30 days, they will grant. If by department, if department is providing, here they will give for 7 days time for they will issue show cause notice. And provide. Where the proper officer cancels the registration suo motu, he shall not cancel the same without giving show cause notice or without giving reasonable opportunity of being heard. He must provide that show cause notice and opportunity of being heard within 7 days of service of notice. If reply to show cause notice is satisfactory, then proper officer drop the proceedings. If he is not satisfied, however, person where replying the show cause notice served for failure to furnish return for continuous period of 6 months, or in case of 3 months in case of compulsion supply, furnishes all pending returns and makes full payment of tax dues along with applicable interest and late fees, the proper officer drop the proceedings and pass the order for not cancelling the registration. where registration of person is liable to be cancelled. Proper officer shall issue the order of cancellation of registration within 30 days from the date of reply of show cause notice. Reply of show cause notice. Here, after that 7 days, whenever you are replying for show cause notice, from that reply 30 days will be time for cancelling the registration. Effective date of cancellation. Effective date will be cancellation of registration shall be effective from the date to be determined by the proper officer and mention the cancellation order. Whatever the date mentioned by the proper officer or whatever the date mentioned in cancellation order, he will direct the taxable person to pay arrears of tax, interest, penalties, including amount liable to be paid under section 29(5). Next, amount payable on cancellation of registration. Section 29(5) and 6. A registered person whose registration is cancelled will have to debit electronic credit or cash ledger an amount equivalent to ITC, whatever ITC is there, and the date of cancellation, or output tax payable on such goods, whichever is higher, will be calculated as the prescribed mode. However, in case of capital goods or plant and machinery, the taxable person shall pay amount equivalent to the ITC taken on said capital goods will be reduced to such percentages. Next, as per amount of credit to be reversed. What amount to be reversed? In case of inputs, it is required to ITC as per Rule 44. ITC on inputs computed proportionally on basis of corresponding invoices on which credit has been availed on such inputs. Output tax payable, whichever is higher, will be calculated. And if the tax invoice is not available, the ITC to be reversed will be based on the prevailing market price. If you are on IT invoices, based on invoices, we will calculate the ITCs. If you do not have an ITC invoices, then we will go with market price and such goods on date of cancellation. Next, in case of capital goods, ITC on respect of capital goods or plant and machinery calculated in accordance with Rule 44 of CGST rules, that is ITC involved in remaining useful life in the month of capital goods, will be reversed on the pro rata basis, taking useful life as 5 years, that is 60 months will be taking. Next, tax on transaction value of such capital goods or plant and machinery under section 15, whichever is higher, will be considered. Next, example number 23. Capital goods have been in use for 4 years, 6 months and 15 days. So 4 years, 6 months, 15 days. The useful life in month will be 5 months, ignoring part of month. Will be ignoring. Next, ITC taken on such capital goods C, and ITC attributable to remaining useful life is equal to C into 5 by 60. So part thereof will be removed. 4.6.5, that is 5 years will be considered. So 5 years divided by 5 months divided by 6. Remaining months will be 5 months, that is 15 days, that is 7 months will be calculated. For year there will be 12 months, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 months. 5 months will be calculated for remaining useful life. ITC attributable remaining useful life will be C into 5 by 60. Next, in case of other points about cancellation, where Rule 17 cannot apply for cancellation of registration. Cancellation of registration will not affect the liability of registered person to pay tax. For example, the proper officer cancels the registration of Naman Associates on 11th October. The tax dues on Naman Associates for July-September quarter are 50,000. So determined by the proper officer on 16th December. The cancellation of registration of Naman Associates shall have not effect on his liability of tax dues of 50,000, even though the tax dues are determined after the cancellation of registration. So even if the registration is cancelled, if any liability is arise, you must pay the liability of that amount. Next, revocation of cancellation of registration. Here what is there in revocation of cancellation of registration? Whatever the revocation of cancellation of registration will be there is in some cases they issue the show cause notice and suspension the persons. So once revocation of cancellation of registration, where a person suo motu cancel order was passed by the proper officer, then that person or assessee may apply for revocation of cancellation to the officer within 30 days. In form REG 21 will be taken place within 30 days from date of service of order of cancellation of registration. So here proper officer issued notice for cancellation of registration. From that notice within 30 days he may apply for revocation of cancellation of registration. No sir, we are continuing the business, we want our registration, so you don't want to cancel my registration. That some reasons will be provided. That reasons said provision for 30 days for sufficient cause means reasons will be provided in writing. Next, if you want any additionally 30 days, then provide by the joint commissioner will provide additional 30 days. Next, if the whatever the reasons you are providing, proper officer is satisfied, then revoke cancellation of order and issue the order in form. So they will cancel, means order will be cancelled and registration will be allowed. Next, if he is not satisfied, then he will provide the opportunity of being heard for you. From that date, within 7 days, you must furnish the required information whatever the proper officer is required. Then after proper information is provided, then within 30 days proper officer is satisfied, then he can revoke the order. If he is not satisfied, your application will be rejected. Next, where the registration was cancelled for failure to register person to furnish returns. In case you are not furnished the returns, shall be filed before applying for registration was cancelled due to failure for returns. You must file registration, whatever pending return is there, you must file before filing for revocation of application for registration. Next, example number 25. The register of Namano Associates was cancelled by proper officer by the order dated 1st June for its failure to furnish returns. The registration was cancelled with effect from 1st June itself. It applied for revocation of cancellation of registration. The order for revocation of cancellation of Naman is passed on 31st July. In this case, Naman Associates shall require to file all the returns, whatever pending is the returns, you must file before applying for that revocation of registration. That is 1st June to 31st July within a period of 30 days from 31st July. That is 30 August. That is related to this example. Here, what is the date of effective cancellation of registration? From date for which returns are not furnished. Returns for this period to be filed before applying for revocation cancellation. Date of order of cancellation of registration. Or returns for this period to be filed within 30 days of the order of revocation of cancellation. Then date of order of revocation of cancellation of registration will be effective date of order registration. Next, whether registration is cancelled with retrospective effect. Here, for example, the registration of Namana Associates was cancelled by the proper officer by an order dated 1st June for its failure to furnish returns. The registration was cancelled with effect from 1st January itself. It applies for revocation of cancellation of registration, and order for revocation of cancellation of Naman is passed on 31st July. In this case, the Naman and Associates shall be required to furnish all returns from the period from 1st January to 31st July within period of 30 days from the 31st July. That is by 30 August. So whenever he is applying for revocation, he must file all returns. Here, returns for this period to be filed within 30 days of the order of revocation of cancellation. That is, date from which return is not furnished. Effective date of cancellation will be that place. And date of order of cancellation of registration or date of order of revocation cancellation of registration. Point to be noted. Here, UN holder, that is UN bodies, embassies and other notified persons, that is GST practitioners cannot apply for revocation of cancelled registration. So GST practitioners is not allowable for revocation of registration. In case registration is cancelled on the request of the taxpayer or is legal error, or one cannot apply for revocation of cancelled registration. So the registration is cancelled by you only and you cannot apply for revocation of order. Next, the revocation of cancellation of registration under SGST Act or UTGST Act, as the case may be, shall be deemed to be a revocation of cancellation of registration under GST Act, that is related to registration.